I'm not gonna sing anything because Allison's gonna put that in.
Welcome to Wow if True, the podcast of your wildest memes.
We're your one-stop internet culture shop here to dissect what's going viral, why we care, and how this might affect our real human lives. And I'm twisted ankle enjoyer Isabel. That's not a bit. I twisted my ankle yesterday.
Aw, that sucks. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Anyone, please direct medical advice to @WowTruePod on Twitter. And I'm Amanda. Anyone could be famous on the internet, so why not us?
You know how maybe 20... Was it? I want to say 20 episodes ago, we talked about how it might have been more than 20. This might have been like episode 2.
Honestly, I think
it might have been episode 2.
It was like 40 episodes ago.
You know, maybe 40 episodes ago, we talked about how every canonization of Destiel, which is the ship for Castiel and Dean Winchester from the show Supernatural, also corresponds with a major American political event. And I pulled out a whole timeline to show Amanda because I was completely serious about this theory, and it has been...
I buy it.
Yeah, it's been remarkably, robust over the past couple of years, in the sense that, like, every time Destiel gets canonized, i.e., whenever either a creator from the show, or, like, somebody who worked on the show, or, like, an actor has said something about it, or if it's been canonized on live TV, some sort of major political shakeup happens.
Yeah, this keeps happening with, like, dubs in other languages, but I buy it. I mean, I do think it's just that the Supernatural fandom is absolutely unhinged, and US politics are also absolutely unhinged, but
the timing, Amanda.
But the timing.
What we're saying here today is that the Destiel political event overlap predictor congruence theory, as described above, continues to hold true. Amanda, what's going on with Twitter?
Yes, Twitter is a major US political event, but honestly, it is.
America is just a bunch of corporations in a big hat. Send tweet.
Here's what you've missed on Glee. Just kidding. Here's what you've missed on if you thankfully don't have a job that requires you to know what's going on with Elon Musk and Twitter. So, background. Isabel, as somebody who is, can we still not call you a lawyer?
You can officially call me a lawyer, I believe on June 26th. It might be June 26th. It's one of the June 26th or 27th when I get sworn in. Unless they look at my social media beforehand and are like, "Hey dude, what's wrong with you?"
Okay, so as somebody who works in law, has a JD, and passed the bar, you know how insider trading is a thing that rich people go to jail for?
Oh yeah, you know how people go to insider trade. Sorry.
It's like rich people in jail like, oh, hey, we met at the insider trading.
Yeah, you know, we met we met at insider trading, wink. Yes, I do know that. And also, fun fact, I do get emails from my law firm about, hey, you can't insider trade. And I was like, I don't even know what's going on at my job.
Yeah, that reminds me of when I worked in politics and Donald Trump got COVID. And I found out that Donald Trump got COVID because I woke up and I had an email, a text, and a Slack message saying, "Do not make fun of Donald Trump having COVID on social media. It will be used against us."
That's so funny.
Yeah.
But yes, insider trading. Something that rich people go to jail for.
So the SEC tries to prevent that from happening by, let's say, if you're the CEO of Tesla, like, if you are Elon Musk,
hypothetically,
and you tweet, hypothetically, let's say you're Elon Musk, which also you did put a note in our script that you said, we definitely talk too much about Elon Musk, but in his defense, he should stop doing things like having a secret baby with Grimes and trying to buy Twitter.
Yeah, not in his defense, in our defense. I think that, like, if a guy's gonna do this much shit, we do need to talk about it. Because, like, my god, stop trying to be a supervillain. But, like, not even an effective supervillain. Like,
yeah,
he's not Lex Luthor, you know? Anyway.
But, so let's say you're the CEO of Tesla.
Sure.
The SEC would prevent you from sharing inside information about the company on a public forum, let's say Twitter, because then you are impacting the stock market potentially, and that is not a thing that you are allowed to do.
Right.
And so Elon Musk just shitposts whatever comes into his brain, which means sometimes it was stuff about Tesla.
Notable post being the 420 stock price of Tesla from a couple years back, where he was like, let's get this to 420. And it was like, Elon, you can't say that, but also 420, nice.
Yeah, it's just like the fucking government is getting involved with 420 shitposts because of fucking Elon Musk. Anyway, I'm gonna say fuck like 20 times while I explain this.
I'm gonna keep
But
a fuck counter
so
now.
yeah, so due to this SEC ruling in 2018, there is a rule that Elon Musk must have a Tesla lawyer look over anything he tweets regarding Tesla. People call it a Twitter sitter, which I think is extremely funny. And honestly, I wish that we all had Twitter sitters. Like, I don't know. I
Wait.
tweet some weird things.
So this is a real job a lawyer could get.
Yeah, you should. Oh, Isabel, you should career pivot to be a Twitter sitter.
Oh, now I'm like, oh, maybe this should be my new career path. Like, fuck actually working at a law firm. I should just do this for a big company. Honestly, like, this sounds like a horrible job, but also an amazing job, because I would love to just, like, look at people's tweets and judge them. Because I do that for free.
Yeah, I feel like this would be fun if you were doing it for, like, an old lady celebrity. Like, if you were doing this for, like, Meryl Streep or, like, Dolly Parton or something. Which then you could tell Dolly Parton, hey, Dolly, why the fuck are you doing an NFT project? But doing this for Elon Musk, anything where you are attempting to regulate Elon Musk, like, if you're the SEC, sounds like a bad time. Anyway, so Elon Musk has a Twitter sitter.
Sorry, I want to pause. This is what I would do if I was Elon Musk's Twitter sitter. And I think I would be able to head him off by just telling him his tweets aren't funny and that nobody's gonna like them.
Oh,
like, I think I would have to
maybe
play some,
that's
like,
the strategy.
psychological mind games.
God, I really want you to. I feel like you are the individual who can take down Elon Musk. You, Isabel J. Kim.
I agree. I think I'm just that powerful. Anyway, what were you saying?
All right. So anyway, timeline, March of this year. So he's had this Twitter sitter since like 2018, but in March of this year, regulators were like, okay, but should we be paying attention to like all of his tweets? Like, is this guy just too powerful? So then Elon was like, I want to build my own social media site. And then I wrote a whole ass essay about why that wouldn't happen. And I guess I was right, because he's not building his own social platform. He's just gonna go and fucking try to buy Twitter. And so at first he bought a 9.2% stake in Twitter, which this was a question that came up at Quizzo. And I was like, thank you for arranging Quizzo questions specifically to my tech journalist career. Anyway, so there was this whole debacle where he got a board seat on the Twitter board, then he, like, ungot the seat, and it was, like, a whole thing, and people were like, what's going on? And then Elon's like, haha, JK, I'm going to offer to buy Twitter for $43 billion, which is money that I have. And he did have the money. And turns out that after some considerations, Twitter wants to accept his offer.
Right. Well, so the thing is, like, the board can't take deals. They can't reject a deal that is technically quote unquote good for investors. And he is unfortunately offering like a pretty hefty stock price. I think that's what share price. I forget. I know law words, finance.
Yeah. So basically where we're at right now is that the deal isn't final, but it's just sort of like pending weird bureaucracy stuff. It is basically final. You would know more about this.
Yeah, actually, so I know it's interesting for me because I feel like I actually know the underpinnings of it, but I haven't been keeping up with the day-to-day momentum, and I feel like every day there's something new happening with it, because essentially he's financing this like through like he is doing some capital L capital F leveraged finance using like Tesla stock, and Tesla stock has been dropping. So, you know, I think it's one of those things where I'm not super up to date on what's going on, but it's also one of those things where it's like, oh, is he going to have the cash? But I think he does have the cash. But it was a question for a bit.
Yeah, he has proven that he has the cash. It just required I think he sold some Tesla stock. I don't know. But,
and by cash, I mean, like, assets. And sorry, I'm going to stop talking about leverage finance. Because that's not what this podcast is about.
But, so beyond the sheer news of it all, I think it's important to talk about, why do people care so much about this? Why are people freaking out? Why is this a bad thing beyond just, like, the badness of, damn, you have $43 billion and you could, like, solve world hunger, but you're buying Twitter?
Okay, but, like, he doesn't have $43 million. Like, it's not, like, liquid capital, whatever.
Billion.
He should solve billion. Fuck, that's so much money. Even if it's not, like,
I know.
in, like, cold hard cash, that's just, like, a lot of, like, wealth analogs anyway. So why does it matter? Other than we need to kill him.
I would say stop threatening people that they're gonna die on our podcast, but also, like,
Okay, so
I don't know, man.
I think the more I threaten people on this podcast, the more obvious it is that it's a parody and a joke and nobody can prosecute me for it. Send tweet. Anyway, go on.
Okay, so Elon Musk calls himself a free speech absolutist. He sent this tweet that is pretty, I would love to know your lawyer take on this tweet, which is a clusterfuck.
Mm-hmm.
By free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I am against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people.
Okay, so my response to this is that, to quote another tweet, which is that the First Amendment protects you against the government, not the Justin.
Not the Justin?
Not the Justin, because this was a Justin McElroy tweet. And basically, first of all,
why does it always come back to Justin McElroy?
Because he has good tweets, leave me alone!
I would rather Justin McElroy buy Twitter than Elon Musk.
I think Justin McElroy would do, like, a bad job with Twitter, but a good job with Twitter. Out of the three McElroy brothers, he is the brother I would trust with Twitter the most. Which is not saying much.
Honestly, I feel like I would trust Hank Green to run Twitter. I just don't think he wants to.
I don't think Hank Green would do a good job with Twitter, because I think it would be a little overwhelming for him.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm also not saying that Justin would do a good job with Twitter. I'm just saying he's the least bad McElroy to run Twitter.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, I mean, people were kind of clowning on Elon for being like, you want this? Like, I think one of the best tweets was, Elon spent $44 billion on this, and I just downloaded it for free from the App Store.
I saw that. That was good.
But yeah, so what do you think about Elon Musk's interpretation of free speech as a person who studies the law?
It's bad. Okay, no, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, he's doing that thing where people are talking about free speech, but they really just mean free speech for themselves, which I feel like is what every free speech advocate, I'm doing air quotes in real life, is really doing, where it's like, I just want to not be censored. I just want to say shit. And they're, like, couching that in a, I want everyone to be able to say shit sort of, like, language. The other thing here is that he's doing that thing where, like, he's like, oh, X means Y, Y means Z, therefore X means Z, but he's, like, also just wrong about the way that, like, the law works, because the law doesn't work like that, because the law is horrible and a mess. And also, like, he's being really stupid for a capitalist here, because it's very much like a situation in the United States where to go at a 1,000-foot level, the government cannot restrict your speech. Individual other people can do that unless it's infringing on other rights. Yeah, so this is one of those things where he's like, oh, the government can't do this, therefore nobody else should be able to do this. That's actually not how that works. But, like, basically what I'm saying is he's wrong and he should feel bad.
Yeah, I think the thing is that the First Amendment protects you against the government being like, hey, everybody has to be a Christian now, or the government being like, you're not allowed to say bad things about the president.
Mm-hmm.
The First Amendment doesn't protect you against you make a Hitler joke on Twitter, as Elon Musk has done, and then people say, hey man, that's not cool.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so you said what I meant much more succinctly. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
Nice.
And what's really incomprehensible about this to me is that when you look at Twitter's community guidelines, they're really not that stringent. Like, they prohibit things like COVID misinformation, targeted harassment, doxing, etc. This does also notably include a rule where dead naming trans people is a form of harassment that can be punishable by these community guidelines. And I think that's a good thing. I think that trans people should use the internet without being harassed. That's, not really a hot take here. But another event that precipitated Elon Musk's interest in buying Twitter was that the Babylon Bee, which is a conservative version of The Onion, kind of, they posted an article on Twitter that was celebrating the quote-unquote man of the year, but the man of the year was a prominent trans woman, and it was fucked up, and they got suspended from Twitter because they were being transphobic
yeah,
and
rightly so.
Like, they were leveraging targeted harassment against a trans public figure. So then Seth Dillon, the CEO of the Babylon Bee, tweeted something where he said that after the Babylon Bee was suspended, Elon Musk had reached out to him and made a comment like, maybe I need to buy Twitter.
That's a lot. And like,
Yeah.
not great. Not great. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like community guidelines are kind of just, the internet was not made for law. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, who's really at risk here? Is it like Elon Musk and Seth Dillon and those kind of people, like, not being able to be transphobic on the internet? Or is it like actual people that are historically marginalized that are more prone to being harassed on the internet? And as we know, internet harassment can very well lead into real life harassment and actual real life danger for people.
Right. Like, there's this like one anecdote where it's like, if you don't like kick the Nazis out of the bar, eventually you're going to end up with a Nazi bar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like that's kind of how internet spaces work as well. Like, if you tolerate a certain level of bullshit, you're going to just get the people who are doing that bullshit.
Yeah. It's just like, why are we going to such lengths to defend, like, transphobic Nazis, essentially?
Yeah. I mean, there's sort of like an interesting, like, I don't want to say interplay here, but there's a lot of like, I feel like the people who are in charge of a big networking platform, like Twitter, that has like essentially the entire world, Western English world on it, are in a tough place, because the more like I guess the way that I'd say this in like very broad strokes, and don't quote me on this because it's been a while since I've looked at this, but the more moderation you do, the more you're subject to certain like laws, essentially, and the more places you operate in, the more different places laws you're also under. Does that make sense? So there's like a thing with that, and versus like, how do you moderate across like multiple nations and all the problems that come in those? Anyway, this is sort of like going super abstract compared to like the shit Elon might buy Twitter question, which is I think the question there is more just like, we don't want Elon to be deciding stuff for Twitter. And why is he saying Twitter can't ban speech when we know that he wants Twitter because he wants to like have certain speech be allowed, and B, like moderate speech himself? Like, you know, it's very clearly like what he's trying to do here. That's like not cool. Anyway.
And I think this is also why we see the rise of social media networks that take this approach that Elon is taking, where it's basically like, you can do anything you want on this platform as long as it is not illegal and as long as it doesn't get us removed from the App Store. So that's when you have apps like Parler, now Truth Social, which I did get into Truth Social. Truth Social is Trump's social media app, which I only signed up for journalism reasons, don't worry. And they were supposed to be operational by April, I think, like beginning of April. And they started letting people into the app, like, off the wait list maybe like a week ago.
Nice.
So I'm on Truth Social. I'm a Cramorant, a Pokemon. My icon is a Cramorant. I am trying to experiment by tweeting very, like, tame neoliberal things. Like, I don't think there was fraud in the 2020 election. But nobody has engaged with me yet because I have, like, 4 followers. So, yeah, Truth Social is a fucking nightmare.
You know what's funny is that I feel like the right doesn't have any web developers.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really funny, like, place for their attempts to make social media platforms to be in.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Truth Social took the code from Mastodon, which is an open source Twitter alternative. And because it's open source, they were able to just take the Mastodon code. But originally they didn't credit Mastodon, and then Mastodon was like, hey, you can't do that. And then now on Truth Social website, they have a whole thing where they're like, we use Mastodon's code because we're committed to open source technology and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you're not. You just tried stealing it and then you got caught because you don't know how to write your own code.
That's extremely funny.
It is fucking insane.
Okay, so interesting social phenomenon that I saw in wake of like Elon causing problems on Twitter. I feel like if I say Elon causing problems on Twitter, that could mean anything. But anyway, everyone was like talking about deleting Twitter, and especially in some of the writer circles I was in, like the very leftist writer circles. And then no one really did. And I feel like this always happens whenever anything happens on social media.
What's scary though is that I think people might be.
Tell me more.
I very much, when I saw people doing that, I was like, no one's deleting Twitter, like, get over yourselves. Like, nothing on Twitter is even going to change for the next 6 months because that's probably how long it's going to take for this deal to close if it does close. But NBC reported that people were starting to realize, like, oh, hey, how come I suddenly lost a ton of followers? And Barack Obama, who Noted person who was attracted to ethereal bisexuals. That's another throwback to like episode 1.
Noted ethereal bisexual enjoyer, Barack Obama.
Why did he write that? And how did it get through editing? Anyway, so Obama has the most followed account on Twitter, despite his comments about long-legged socialists.
You know, I think that was actually, like, I think that adds people to his account. I don't think that subtracts people from his account. Anyway.
Well, what did subtract people from his account is that he lost more than 300,000 followers after the news of Elon Musk buying Twitter broke. And then Katy Perry lost 200,000 followers. Why does Katy Perry have such a big Twitter presence? She's extremely culturally irrelevant, TBH.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know why Katy Perry was your other reference for this.
Because that's what NBC reported. Thank you for that reporting,
Why was
NBC.
NBC reporting on Katy Perry? Anyway, yeah, okay, so that's interesting. But I'm wondering how much of this is just people who realized that they had a Twitter and were like, oh, maybe I should get off. Like, you know, like people who don't use it but have like an account.
Yeah, anecdotally, I don't know anybody who's been like, I'm going to leave Twitter, except for one of our friends who was like, hey, why don't we have our group chat on Discord instead of Twitter? Which is honestly better, because why were we doing a group chat on Twitter? Like, that's just not.
I don't know. I feel like that was a you guys' decision and not a me decision. I'm happy that we moved to Discord.
I mean, it was just because we were communicated on Twitter. Then we were like, what if we communicated on a platform that was more conducive to communication in a group
Anyway,
chat,
more important question.
Text.
Are you going to leave Twitter?
Well, no, because I'm addicted to it.
How unfortunate for you.
I mean, I think also, like, as a journalist, I need to be on Twitter as somebody who literally reports on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but what was also scary about the Twitter situation was that then Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is like a conspiracy theorist, right-wing representative, gained about 130,000 followers within like a few days of the deal being announced, which, I mean, you could see, like, it is pretty clear that, yeah, there's going to be people that are more on the other side of the political spectrum who are like, oh, Twitter's a place for me now. Like, Tucker Carlson came back to Twitter, which that wasn't because Twitter was like, welcome back. That was because he personally made that decision himself. And another big question is, will Trump come back to Twitter? Because he was banned after the January 6th insurrection, and Donald Trump has said he does not want to go back to Twitter. I hope that he does not come back to Twitter.
So on that dark note, on that very depressing note, let's talk about things that aren't Twitter.
Yeah, this is the palate cleanser corner where I talk about my existential crisis over enjoying the wavy checkerboard pattern.
Sorry, can we pause? I love the sentence. This is the palate cleanser where we talk about my existential crisis. How maybe you're the Gen Z one now. Anyway, tell me about this checkerboard.
Literally me in therapy. I told my therapist this week that I have main character energy, and I had to explain to her what that means.
You're right, and also that's extremely funny. Why would you say that to your therapist? Why would your therapist understand what you meant?
Because I was trying to explain why I do things for attention, even though I'm afraid of backlash. Like having a podcast.
But, like, why would you say main character energy to your therapist? Whatever.
Because I was trying to explain it. I also once explained to my therapist that I'm a quote-unquote inbox zero person, and that was a bit easier to explain. But anyway, so have you noticed on, like, TikTok and certain Instagram circles, there's this aesthetic of a checkerboard pastel print. Sometimes it's a bit wavy. There's also these squiggly mirrors, abstractly shaped baby pink candles.
Yeah. Or sometimes the wavy ones, the ones that are like an arch. And then those, like,
yeah,
the arch candles, and then, like, those, like, little, like, dishes that are, like, oval, that are shaped like pills, basically. Yeah, no, I know exactly which aesthetic you're talking about here. Go on.
Yeah, or, like, a pink tiled bathroom, or disco balls, or those candles that are a bunch of stacked little bubbles. So where did that come from? Because I went to the craft fair yesterday, spent too much money, and let me tell you, the hold that this one stand with wavy mirrors and pink candles had on me.
I mean, okay, so I think this has actually been floating around TikTok for a while now, because I feel like I've seen
it has
these, like, aesthetics, like, kind of in a grouping being popularized for like the last few months, I want to say. And it's like, it's very much like a specific, like, Gen Z moment that's very, like, retro, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, this has definitely been going on since early 2021, according to my research, because I researched this. And I think it's just that at first I was like, a pastel pink checkerboard, that's a nice pattern. I like it. And then now I'm like, oh, I am very consciously being influenced by what I am seeing on TikTok and Instagram, and I am buying things that are pastel pink checkerboard because I like it. And then it's hard for me to be like, do I like it, or do I like it because I'm told I should like it?
Damn, the algorithm got you. Fucking algorithm got another one. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I think it's like one of those things where like the more you see of something, the more you're like, oh yeah, this could be what I'm about. This could be me. This is kind of cute, actually. And like, you know, it's a deliberate manipulation, but it's also kind of like a passive input sort of situation. And I think also like my other hot take about this is that it's an easy aesthetic to make, and people who are like making like small businesses are going for like lowest common denominator of like, here's something that appeals to the masses. It's like very inoffensive. It's cute. It's kind of like riding into that like 1970s, like early 2000s, like revival sort of situation we have going on. Good luck with your checkerboards. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, that is very true. And there is the utility that if you're wearing a checkerboard scarf and you get stuck in an airport, you can take it off and try to play checkers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's multi-purpose.
Yeah. So personally, just shout out to @tay_beep_boop. @tay_beep_boop on TikTok and Instagram. Her aesthetic is absurd. She basically has decorated her entire house in this aesthetic through DIY projects that look very difficult and challenging that I do not want to do. But anyway, so I did a bit of research about why this checkerboard print pastel came back, and this writer at Pop Sugar traced it to a designer, Emma Mulholland, who made a olive green and white checkered pajama set which Gigi Hadid wore while pregnant.
You know what this reminds me of is like the way that like you see shit on a runway and then like 6 months later you see it in real life but like watered down. That's the vibes. Yeah.
I also think it's funny because for so long in my brain I've associated checkerboard print with like middle school emo skater kids wearing checkerboard Vans.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I have nothing super eloquent to say about that other than the fact that I feel like the checkerboard Vans thing was also like a 2000s thing. So, like, it's interesting to see it flip into like a pretty pastel situation. Like, you know, some fucking like role reversal.
I have seen this described as a Y2K aesthetic, but I don't know if that's really it.
I think it is. I think it's attached to a lot of other stuff that's like Y2K aesthetic, because I know that like I feel like this falls into the camp of like low-rise jeans and like really small shirts.
I think that low-rise jeans are personally attacking fat people.
I agree with that.
I'm not going to elaborate on that.
Understandable. Have a nice day. Are you going to lean away from the checkerboard thing, or are you going to lean into it now that you know that you're being advertised to?
Honestly, I'm leaning into it. I like it.
God damn it, they got you.
I know, they got me.
So, okay, let's move on from advertising because this is now depressing me. I'm kidding. But also, like, live your best life, even if your best life is curated by TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm going to be living my worst life on Tumblr because I really want to talk about Tumblr Blaze. This is only partially because we advertised on it.
Yes. So Tumblr Blaze is a product that launched in the US on 4/19, not 4/20, 4/19, where you can pay money for Tumblr to boost your post. But I did write about how on 4/20 they had a 4/20 Blaze promotion where you could blaze your post for $4.20 or $42 or $54.20, which is just no, like that's not fitting with the joke. Or I think $420 they had an option, but I did write an article that was titled, like, Tumblr said 4/20 blaze it, and I was trying to get the Tumblr people to, like, make it go viral, but it did not.
See, that's the thing about the Tumblr people. The more you try to make them do anything, the less they want to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, we've talked about Tumblr's, like, previous attempts at monetization over the last few months, kind of at length. And I think Blaze is actually going to be successful because it leans into the fact that Tumblr people are chaotic and don't do what you want them to do.
Yeah, like...
I'm sorry about your article not going viral. I didn't do my part in trying to get it viral. I'll blaze it at some point.
It's okay. I tried too hard to impress them.
See, the problem is that your content is good, Amanda, and Tumblr people don't like good. And see, this is why Post Plus and Tip Jar both failed. And I'm not going to go ahead and call them failures, but also, yeah, they failed. Because, like, nobody is really willing to pay for posts. Because nobody wants good content. But people are willing to pay to inflict posts. Because what Tumblr Blaze does is that you can blaze your post to shoot it on the dashboard of 2,500 random users for $10 at minimum when it's not the 420 promotion, and 50,000 random users for $150. And immediately people were on board. Immediately people started blazing. People on Tumblr fucking love to blaze it.
Okay, also, when I wrote about this, I referenced that somebody blazed the first chapter of My Immortal.
Yeah.
And I had 2 editors at TechCrunch look over my post because I was like, okay, like, am I being a little too crazy for TechCrunch.com by being like, Tumblr said 420 blaze it? And both of their feedback was not, oh, like, maybe change this sentence here. It was, do enough people know about My Immortal?
Everybody knows about My Immortal.
I know!
I think your editors are out of touch and simply need to read My Immortal.
Both of these people are over 30, I will say.
Oh, so that's what it is. Yeah.
This is why journalism needs me personally.
You are bringing, like, you know, great cultural criticism and awareness of what youth culture is about to TechCrunch.com, and they should give you a raise. If Amanda's editors are reading this, listening to this.
They like literally just gave me a raise.
Well, they should give you a second. Anyway, I cannot stress enough, like we talked about advertising. Blazing a post sends it to random users. You don't get to pick who sees it, what demographic gets it. It's not targeted in any way. It just adds your post to people's dashboards with a little sponsored tag. So what essentially this is like PvP posting. And I would like to show you kind of a list of things that have been blazed ever since this started happening. Okay.
Amazing.
So the first thing I would like to say is that Catholics on Tumblr are trying to recruit. And there have been like pro-Catholicism posts from like a small contingent of Catholics. This has led to Martin Luther's 95 Theses being placed.
That's okay, literally like there is like small domino, Martin Luther prints the 95 Theses, big domino, Tumblr Blaze.
Exactly.
The 95 Theses were the original Tumblr Blaze.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, so that has been nailed to people's dashboards. One of the first things that got blazed was Hobbit Love, which I think you should open up the episode script and go look at Hobbit Love.
Oh, I'm looking at it, and if people are on our, like, the second patron tier, I believe you get access to our show notes.
You too can see Hobbit Love.
Or you can just go on Tumblr.
Or you can
give us like $10 to see Hobbit Love.
I think you should give us $10 to see Hobbit Love. Anyway, other things, pictures of their cats, linguistics jokes, a couple of NFT ads, which, boo, we do not support. And today, what people are annoyed about is that the John Galt monologue from Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand... The whole, like, 11 pages in a Blaze post.
I love how the only people that it seems have been, like, legitimately trying to advertise things through Tumblr Blaze are A, Catholics, B, NFT people, C, us.
Yeah. Yes, because we did Blaze an ad for the show, and I don't know if it helped or hurt the show. But yes, Wow If True is advertising on Tumblr using Blaze, and a really good ad, which you do not need to join our Patreon to see. We will simply post it because it's really good.
Actually, real quick, let's look at our stats and see if we notice any meaningful change since the Blaze.
Okay, well, so the thing is, I actually did look at that because I was curious a couple days ago if, like, hey, did blazing that post really work? Because people on the tags and the notes of the post were like, yeah, I'll listen to that. This is actually a pretty funny ad. And I was like, thank God. People on Tumblr love my shitposting. I cannot stress enough that the ad was all in word art, and it was extremely bad to look at. Let me just put it that way. It was extremely bad to look at.
It was very good. Okay. Well, we did just finish the month of April, so let's compare. We can compare the month of April to previous months.
So, like, we usually get like a spike when we drop an episode, right? Oh, this is we're peeling back the curtain. But we also got like a little bit of a spike when we posted the Blaze ad, I think. So what I'm hearing here is that I should spend more of our Patreon money on another Blaze ad and make it twice as bad.
Honestly, I mean, I think that is our target audience. It's like, it doesn't matter that Blazing doesn't have ad targeting, because our target audience is just people who use Tumblr, even though I don't use Tumblr anymore.
Our target audience is people who are on Tumblr in 2022.
Yeah.
On that note, other things that are happening on Tumblr in 2022, let's just run into some, here's what you missed while deleting your Twitter, pop culture quick hits. First of all, Destiel. Misha came out as bi in New Jersey. Keyword, he did do this in New Jersey. And then he took it back basically immediately. So, like, he's the first man who has to come out as straight.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think what's key here is, because I do think in general that speculating about celebrities' sexuality is gross and they're weird people and that's invasive. But I think when Misha, like, accidentally said something that made people think he was coming out as bi, at least in my circles of the internet, the reaction was just like, oh, hey, good for him. Like, whatever. Like, cool. Good job, Misha. But what's really funny is that then he had to come out as straight.
yeah, like, coming out as straight is so funny.
Yeah, it's like people don't think this is so funny because they're actually very invested in this actor's sexuality, I hope. They think it's funny because objectively coming out as straight is just a funny thing.
Right, because it's funny that he essentially said, yeah, I'm bisexual. Like, it wasn't like something that was ambiguous at all. And then he had to be like, wait, fuck, I didn't mean it like that. I'm actually straight. And everyone's like, none of this had to be a problem. You didn't need to say you were bisexual in the first place.
Yeah, and that's what we mean when this happened at the same time as Elon Musk bought Twitter, which could be a major American political event, so the relationship between Destiel canonization and Destiel major events and major American political events. Unfortunately, the trend will not die.
But if Misha's straight, does that mean that the deal isn't going to go through?
Oh, wow. That is literally the most hopeful thing I have heard about maybe Elon Musk won't actually buy Twitter.
If everything as it stands continues in the theory that we have about Destiel and political events, maybe we're good. Maybe we're fine.
Oh my god. The only thing holding together the fabric of the internet is Misha Collins being heterosexual.
So let's just hope that he never discovers anything new about himself.
Do what you want, Misha. Anyway, Avatar 2.
Avatar 2. Yeah, so Avatar 2 is actually happening. I cannot stress enough, Avatar 1 came out in 2009. It has been 13 years. Who wants this? Why are they making this?
People wanted this in 2009. People don't want this in 2022.
This goes into my theory that I've never voiced before, but I maintain is true, that James Cameron is really just trying to fund his science projects and the film as a byproduct, because apparently, like, a lot of the development of this was, we need to wait for the tech to get better. We need to make the technology.
The technology was fine in Avatar 1.
No, but they needed to do underwater.
Oh, God. But maybe... Okay. I mean, again, not to speculate about celebrities' sexuality, because that is gross and invasive. But does James Cameron just want to fuck the blue people?
I think James Cameron does want to fuck blue people. And you know what? That's okay and we support him. I do not really want to watch the blue people again.
Yeah, I have no interest in the blue people in the year 2022. Another pop culture quick hit. The Kardashians have a new show on Hulu called The Kardashians instead of Keeping Up with the. They dropped... Actually, no, instead of Keeping Up with. They did not drop the, but they did drop the Keeping Up with. And it is absurd. There was a situation where in the orbit of people talking about tech, I saw some rumblings about something involving Roblox and the Kardashians, and I was like, I don't know what that means. I'm too busy figuring out what Elon Musk is doing. And then I watched the Kardashians, and one of Kim Kardashian's children found a Kim crying face on Roblox, and it was alluding to the fact that they were gonna drop, like, never before seen content from her, like, 30-year-old sex tape or something.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and then so that was, like, a big plot in the first episode of the reboot, and it has a lot of narrative consistency with the first season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, which is, like, 20 years old. I don't know, don't ask me, don't at me, where it takes place right after Kim Kardashian's sex tape leaked, and just Celebrity culture is so fucking weird.
I feel like the enduring popularity, and I'm putting a popularity in air quotes, of the Kardashians is really just a testament to how much human beings like being in other human beings' business.
Yeah. So I did watch the entire first season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I was like, oh, it's a cultural artifact. It's very fascinating, but nah, I just like drama.
You're so valid. I've been watching that show where the little Japanese children go on their first errand, and it's the same thing, right? But also, like, oh my god, I get so invested in these, like, 2-year-olds going on their first errand alone. But also, I'm very worried about them, like, because in the context of if they don't have a camera crew, and if this is just, like, a normal thing that Japanese children do, would you let your 2-year-old just, like, walk around? I feel like I wouldn't let my 2-year-old walk around, and I'm basing this solely on the fact that when I was 2, I had no idea what was going on. Like, I don't think I could do what the kids are doing.
Is this a thing that happens? Like, is this, like, outside of the Netflix show, is this, like, a normal thing?
Yeah, apparently it's, like, a tradition, sort of like a cultural thing, where it's like, okay, yeah, you send the kid on their first errand when they're really young so that it builds their confidence, and, like, they learn that they can fucking operate regularly in the world and that, like, other people out there will help them. I don't think this would work in any other country, because Japan's, like, relatively safe, as, like, countries are. I don't think I would want to drop my kid in the middle of Midtown Manhattan, right? But apparently you can do this in Japan. So yeah, like, usually the camera crew is not there.
I mean, I assumed that usually there's not a camera crew.
Unless you're one of the Kardashians' kids, in which case the camera crew is there.
I mean, that's what's also so wild about the Kardashians, is that you see Kendall and Kylie when they're, like, 9, and now they have kids, and they're, like in the first season, it's, like, a big plot line that Caitlyn Jenner, who was not yet Caitlyn Jenner, is trying to, like, shield Kendall and Kylie from things like the Kardashians did a photo shoot with Girls Gone Wild, and then Kendall and Kylie were like, well, what's Girls Gone Wild? And then, of course, like, their brother's friend told them, and then it was a whole thing. Honestly, Caitlyn Jenner is the best character in the Kardashians. That's my hot take.
Wow, I can't believe you have opinions about the Kardashians.
Like, the whole first season is literally just Caitlyn Jenner being like, what if we tried to have Kendall and Kylie have a normal life? And then the rest of them are like, LOL, fuck you. Like, no one listens to what she wants. Like, no one cares about her opinion.
That's actually kind of like a sad arc for, like, the kids who are now adults with, like, $1 million brands. I wish I was an adult with $1 million.
Honestly, they're doing great. I've said this before on the pod, but the Kylie lip kit, best lipstick. I'm sorry.
Oh my god. I think we talk too much about the Kardashians on this show as well.
Well, it all started because of the Khloe Kardashian pantry, which at the time on that episode, I was like, oh, what's the home edit? The home edit have a Netflix show. I watched all of it. I'm fucking obsessed with the home edit. It's literally just rich white ladies going into people's homes and giving them transparent bins. It's so good. They literally just give people transparent bins and organize their books.
That's not a good pitch.
It's so good. But I mean, this is why Netflix is losing subscribers for the first time ever, because their shows are like, what if rich white ladies bring transparent bin? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna watch it. But I'm not most people, because I am insane.
I feel like this episode really encapsulates what's great about Wow If True compared to every other podcast online, because it's like, where else are you gonna get here's the breakdown of why Elon Musk is buying Twitter, and also here's what's going on in the Kardashians.
Yeah, I mean, I was on an episode of Equity, which is TechCrunch's, like, flagship podcast, talking about Elon Musk buying Twitter. And I did, on that episode, I think, say smart things about Twitter, but I did also roast the host, Alex, for not knowing what My Immortal is. And somehow I mentioned Supernatural, and I don't remember why.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Which is also wild, because I still have not seen a single episode of Supernatural. I'm just very invested in, like, why is this such a popular internet fandom in 2022, and it's because Misha Collins comes out as straight, and that's just fucking funny.
I think I should make you watch an episode of Supernatural, and we should record it as like, kind of a Patreon reward. I think that would be a lot of fun for all of us.
That would actually be really good Patreon bonus content. You can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/wowoftrue. Continue, Isabel, on our pop culture quick hits.
Yes, okay, last thing that we're going to talk about before we leave you forever, and by forever I mean 2 weeks. Here's how Tumblr's Twitter Kung Pao pianist Elon Musk on Twitter.
So explain to me, I know about this, speaking of our Patreon, because Andre, one of our patrons, shared this in the Wow If True patron Discord, which is a fun poppin' time where I overshare about my life. So if you have a parasocial relationship with me, you gotta get in on that.
She will just tell you everything. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm just like, I probably shouldn't say this in a public forum, but here's a thing going on in my life. Anyway.
I like that Andre told you about this, and you were like, what's that? And then you asked me about this, and I was like, oh yeah, I know what that's about. I've known about this for days.
So, from my understanding, when you kung pao penis somebody, I think on Tumblr it is when you reblog something and then somebody writes K and then the next person writes U and then you just spell out kung pao penis.
Yes, exactly. So,
but why?
So you do it because somebody's post is bad, and you kung pao penis them because it's like a funny thing to like clown on them. And the powerful thing about kung pao penising someone is that you need.
It's really a collective buy-in. It's really like the voice of the
people. You
people.
need 12 people to get in and collaborate on this joke of kung pao penising someone, because you can only do one letter at a time. So the reason that Elon Musk got kung pao penised is that someone did that on Twitter. Elon's post was very bad, and then someone wrote a K, and then we got all the way through kung pao penis, and then the last S, that was by Tumblr's Twitter.
Why is Tumblr so good and so bad?
I think Tumblr is like, you know that meme where it's like Luigi wins by doing nothing? That's Tumblr.
Yeah, except that's why I think Tumblr Blaze is actually a good product, because people want a shitpost. They don't want to have a tip jar. I mean, they do want to have a tip jar. I do think tip jar is a smart feature. They don't want to have Post Plus. Like, so on Post Plus, people are paying you for good content. On Tumblr Blaze, you are paying for other people to see your bad content.
Exactly.
And that's genius. Yeah. Well, it's not genius because it took them like 2 years to come up with it.
It may not have been genius, but it was well implemented, and I am going to blaze more posts.
See, so you're finally giving Tumblr money. Like, they're finally doing it.
I have been on Tumblr since I was 12. I have finally given Tumblr money. It took them literally,
incredible.
Like, fucking, I don't know, how old am I? It took them like
13,
14 years to get money out of me. But the minute that they implemented Blaze, I was like, yes, I need to inflict things. On that note, if you like this episode, blaze it on Tumblr. Tell a friend.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is how we grow. Thank you to all of our patrons, and shout out specifically to Zoe, Bray, Andre, Thea, Brian, and Gabriel. If you want your name in the above or in our Twitter headers, slide right into our Patreon at patreon.com/wowstrue. Shout out to Allison Mills, beloved audio editor, and to graphic designer and Canva warlock Eric Silver, who made our logo, and Sam Rizer, who made our podcast music. You can find us on Twitter as @wowstruepod and Instagram and Facebook as @wowstrue. You can also find us in Tumblr Blaze ads if you're lucky. Had your 15 seconds of internet fame, slide right into our Twitter DMs and tell us about it. Until next time, let's get weird on the internet. Thank you and good night.